we have Austen James Hesler. How you doing today, kid?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
Old man? Is that what I'm supposed to say?
That's fine. I guess we'll let it slide. I can always edit things afterwards.
Yeah, you have that power. So.
Okay, so we're going to hop on right to the questions here. I'm doing this episode kind of out of place. Angela's away for today, and I'm going to be pasting this all back together, hopefully in a coherent fashion when I'm done.
I don't do the editing part of anything. So good luck.
So today we're going to be talking about your book, Edenlancer, which is currently available on Amazon. And what was your inspiration for the book?
Well, that's a good question. I think my inspiration was just I fell in love with storytelling, and I really loved fantasy and sci-fi and those kind of stories, and I wanted to try my hand at writing, and I fell in love with it, and fell in love with the story that I was telling with it, and it just kind of formed in a way.
Pretty good sized story too.
Some might say too big.
Well, if you're a person that likes books, though, I friends that read books the same size or even larger ones. Me, I barely read instructions on how to put things together.
I'm actually a stickler for reading instructions to make sure I do it right. Kind of a little crazy, to be honest with you.
I'm sure some people here wished I did too. So, what's the decision to use Amazon as your distribution center?
I'm a complete newbie at kind of writing, and my whole thing was just to do storytelling, and then when I signed with Page Publishing, they kind of set all that up, and Amazon is just kind of giant in books distribution. There are a few other smaller places too, but Page Publishing was the one that kind of dictated where it went.
Makes sense. I mean, if you're going to do something, if you're looking to get something out there, definitely Amazon is the place to do it.
Yeah. It's also they also had like an ebook kind of thing, and that was a good in between on like being able to publish the book at a really nice price and being able to read it wherever you go without having to carry a. Oh,
I didn't know that. So they create an ebook version of it?
Yeah. So there's a digital version and there's a printed version.
Oh, that's cool. I did not know that. How long did it take you to write that book?
Oh, well, a long time, because I did wake up at 5:30 in the morning and start writing, and then by 7 the kids. Well, at that point it was I think only Aaron, but he would be up, and that would kind of end it. So I was only able to get like an hour and a half of writing in a day. So it took quite a bit of time because I also have a full-time job as an architect. So.
Right. I think you mentioned at one point that your kids, my grandchildren, names were inspired by the book and or characters.
Yeah. So not this one in particular. This one was more inspired from the whole point of the book was kind of a look into faith, and I've had a weird relationship with faith, and I wanted to explore that in the book. So this was less about them. The one that I'm writing next is more inspired by my oldest, Aaron. So he has a much bigger part to that story.
You segued that perfectly into my next question was either, if you had plans to do either a sequel or a prequel.
I am doing a sequel. It's taking too long. But I'm working on it. I'm also a little smarter about the business of writing, because when I came into it, I just wanted to storytell, and I didn't really understand the business part of publishing a book. Like, there was so much more to publishing than was just writing a story and sending it out. It was you're talking about marketing, which I don't do, and I didn't do well. There was, about re-upping contracts and stuff. Otherwise, it goes out of print, like it is now, because, I'm bad at that. And like contracts and copywriting and stuff, you have to have like a general knowledge of all these things that I just was not prepared for. And I think I did myself a disservice not to read into that more. So I'm trying to be smarter this time. Right.
Well, it's funny you say that, given that you draw up architectural plans and stuff, and that entails a lot of follow-up and planning.
It does, but with that, I at least had mentors telling me like, oh, this is how we do things. This is the way we go about drawing and making sure things are safe and going through permitting processes and stuff like that, which you learn over time. I was kind of going on my own, and I wasn't savvy enough to look for help somewhere on the ins and outs. I thought it was a pretty simple process, and I was wrong. And it was a good learning experience.
I would have no clue on even how to start the process. I've thought a couple of times of doing I already have a title of a thing I want to do, but I don't even know how to start it or where to begin. I was talking to Angela, I think maybe like last year, and I mentioned it to a couple of other friends. I wanted to do a book that was called Looking In. And basically the premise of the book would be growing up gay, impoverished, and forgotten. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where to start. Like, do I start with a timeline first? And, there's so much that's been forgotten already in my head that I don't even know where to begin like that. But it's interesting to know that there's a lot more than you initially thought to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I started just writing on paper, just coming up with ideas, like random notes. I'd have like this little notebook that I keep, because I'm an architect. I always have a notebook with me to draw and stuff. But I also had like pages of notes that I would just write. And it took me a while to like compile it, but it was helpful because I think we and you are very similar in that if it goes into our head and we don't write it down or we don't put it on somewhere, it's gone, right? Within a couple minutes, it's done. It doesn't exist anymore.
I can't even tell you like how many projects I've tried for note keeping in order to, keep things that I think about during the day in place. And I've used everything from like OneNote to just, handwriting notepads and digital notepads. And I think my next thing I'm going to try with my attempt at this book is using the iOS app Journal, so I can just talk into it.
Yeah, I've experimented with that. I think there was one at one point called Green Dragon or something like that. That was like a talk to text kind of thing. And, I experimented with that and it worked. I mean, this was way back in 2010. So I'm sure the technology is way more improved. That's not exactly what I said. But
it's like yelling at your phone and Alexa. That's not what I said. Listen to me.
Call Michelle. Calling Michael. No, not Michael. Michelle.
Yeah, I think we've all been there at some point in time with all the technology, especially with all the new AI stuff coming out.
Yeah, definitely. It's AI is an interesting tool because you're seeing it more and more for writing and illustration purposes, which is, can go either way depending on your thoughts and theories.
True. I've played a little bit around with the AI image creation, and it's sometimes it gets close, and sometimes it's like that is not even nowhere near what I just asked you to do. But there's a fine tuning to it. Like it's very specific. Like you gotta know exactly what you're looking for. It's not, you can't use it for just, I want a general idea of images. You got to be very precise if you want anything close to what you're looking for.
What's handy though is like having it for general, just like this is kind of what I'm thinking about. I just need some random images. And then you're like, you could sketch over it and say, I don't like that, And that's kind of how I like to use it in a way. It's just like a median in between, like, just like image vomiting and then drawing over it to be like, that's parts that I like, that's parts that I don't like, then edit that out. And it also feels more like mine.
I didn't
like a computer.
I guess I didn't know you could actually draw over the images.
Well, I have a sketch app on my phone that I'm able to draw over it.
I like that.
Over images. I love it because it helps, like, in my, as an architect, I can maybe, get drawings and then draw over it while I'm sitting at, like, swim lessons waiting for the kids to go into the back and stuff like that, while I'm waiting for them to kick after the 7,000th time their instructor told them to kick. And,
my concern with using the journal app and dictating into it is I don't know if it would be easier to have, like, written pages that you could move around and look at as compared to like having digital pages. I guess if you had a big enough monitor, it would be okay. You could see the pages and move them around and then make your changes. But I don't know. It's something I got to play around with.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part with any of these kind of things is just getting started. I mean, it's such an intimidating task to do something that you're not comfortable with. That's why I'm very proud of you for starting this podcast, because it's like, it's out of the element of your normal day-to-day, and it takes a lot of courage and, just trying something.
It is so far outside of my normal comfort zone. I don't know if it was in the first episode or maybe I mentioned it on our website, but it's like, I'm just an introvert trying to do a podcast.
Yeah, me too. All of the extroversion went to Z, and I am very much an introvert. They will say that they're an extrovert, but I'm like, you're not an introvert, and I'm like,
you walk around in a dress all day. That's not an introvert. Absolutely. So, I mean, all in all, like, what do you think? Like, how long did you think this? Like, it took the entire process? I know you had a couple revisions that they sent back to you to make changes on, especially you had illustrations done. So, I mean, what would you say? Like, did it take like a year, 2 years to do the project?
I'd say in between about a year and a half. It went through a lot of revisions, and I had probably the harshest editor that I've ever had in my life, which is my wife. And she didn't hold anything back, which is great because she was very honest with me. She didn't sugarcoat anything, like, called me out on a lot of things, which was great. And so I also had a friend of mine look over it too when Michelle was, like, pregnant with Lucas, I think, and things were getting kind of complicated. But between those two, they were able to really help me edit things. And I was able to kind of organize my thoughts with things. Like, getting people to read over these things is so important because you're stuck in your head with these ideas, and you're so much like, this is perfect. And then when someone else reads it, they're like, this doesn't make sense. Like, and it's like, now I can see why it doesn't make sense. And so it's helpful to have them read over, but that takes time. And you have to understand, like, people are people. They need time to look over it, especially if they're doing it for a favor, and, like, so you can't rush them, and nor did I want to.
Meanwhile, you're pacing the living room like, come on, get back to me already. I need to know what I got to do here.
Yeah, exactly. I was just, it's just this patient waiting game with people reading it, and especially if it's a certain length, it just takes time. And then it had to go through pages, editorials, and stuff like that. And they did, like, a lot of formatting and worked with me on getting the page set up right, which was another thing that I didn't think of. I just like writing in Word, and they're like, no, this has to be formatted to a certain size. And stuff like,
See, I didn't even think about, like, so probably it's best to start off with contacting the publisher and deciding to pay the book size first.
Yeah, I mean that would be really helpful, but I mean I think I don't want to limit myself to that, right? Like if I have something and this manuscript and I send it to someone and they're like, you know what, we really like this, but it really needs to be edited down, which I wish Paige kind of pushed me more toward. They were kind of too nice in a way. And I was like, I wish you would have told me to like edit some of this down, because I've been looking over it, because I've been tossing the idea of like having a abridged version, like that one called like the campfire version, and making it a little bit more digestible and stuff like that and available. So I wish, and I found things that I'm like, this could probably be worded differently or shortened and stuff like that. I just wish I had.
But you're telling your story. You want all those details in there. It's not like watching a movie when you're telling when you're writing a story. You've got to explain the whole scene. It's not like they're just looking at a picture and they're going, oh, there's a tree and rocks and this. You got to put that image into their head.
And it's hard to do and keep it short and sweet, right? And that's a whole process in itself. So that whole thing of going back and forth just takes time. And then the whole actually publishing it, then they have to go through like the legalities through like the Library of Congress and get copyright number and a patent number or whatever, and it gets an ISBN number, and then then it's free to be printed, and then the printing takes some time and deliveries and stuff like that. So one thing after the other kind of adds to the schedule that I just could not comprehend nor did I know. So like now I'm a little bit smarter on this next one. I'm hoping it'll be, a little bit more successful and a little bit more confident. So I'm hoping I can market it better, because I'm not a marketer, right? I'm very, like I said, I'm introverted. I don't want to push things on people. I don't want to seem like pushy and stuff like that. So, what I need it to be is not who I am, which makes it very difficult to, market. Hence why I'm not a marketer.
Right.
I have friends that can do it, and I envy them for their charisma and their ability to put forth something. But that's just not me.
I think the most nerve-wracking part for me would be getting it done the first time and then having somebody read it and then getting it back with all the red marks on it. Like, that line's got to go.
A lot of grammatical errors, right?
They have spell check, dude. They have spell check.
But they're like, Michelle would constantly tell me, like, there are better ways to write the sentence, that it makes more sense, shorter, it's better for the audience and everything. And that was very helpful, because you're just kind of like typing away, like just getting things out of your head. And you get into this flow, and it's just kind of coming out. You're not really going back and looking. And that's, where I got in trouble a lot of the times, is that I'm just kind of, spitting everything out all at once.
Wow, that certainly sounds like it was quite the project. And I guess I just have you always known that you were that you wanted to write something?
I think I've known probably since I was in middle school that I wanted to do some kind of creative writing, because I was constantly writing stories just to myself, and I think it was a way to help me with transitioning into, especially when we moved to Virginia and transitioning to that and all that kind of stuff, and understanding where I was in the world and my place in it, and understanding my thoughts and beliefs and feelings, and it helped me kind of put all that in paper and not bottle it up or be that really angsty teenager. I was able to kind of freely express myself without being an asshole. So that part of it was very just therapeutic, and I fell in love with the whole process. And I don't like saying that I'm an author, because there's so much more that's involved. I like saying I'm a storyteller, because I love telling these stories, and I love just writing. And
I like that.
I don't think I've really gotten to the point where I feel comfortable calling myself an author because I'm so inexperienced and so like there's so much that I just didn't expect and that I'm still learning about. But yeah, I've known for a while, and I still write little stories and everything like that. And I wanted to. I'm trying to publish a few of them on my website that I really need to redo because I think it's old. But I just haven't really gotten around to it. But I have a few stories that are part of this world that I'm building that kind of give a little bit of backstory to a few things and sets up what's happening in the future. So, and those are like quick,
Well, there you go. You should set up a podcast and you can read your stories.
I thought about like, what if I could read, like do audiobooks, but I listen to audiobooks and I can't match those. I just don't have the kind of charisma and like voice acting that some of these people do, like being able to change your voice into all these different things. Like I can do that with the kids, of course, but like for a profession, like that it takes so much to be able to go through. And I was like, that's a lot. And it needs to be quiet in my house, which you're catching me in a very quiet point right now, and it's not usually.
Which is why we're doing it at my bedtime right now.
When you asked me what time, I was like, oh, he's not going to like that I'm going to say 9 o'clock. But it's honestly the best time to do it because the kids are upstairs, right? Chloe's asleep, the boys maybe asleep.
Okay, so now I want to take you into a new part of our show, and we're going to do this with all of our guests from now on. We have a standard question we ask everybody, and then we have a jar of questions that we pull out and we ask, and we call it our jar of absurdities.
All right.
So the first question is, where did I put that? Oh. What's the weirdest thing you ever did when you thought you were alone?
Well, I could go one or two ways, couldn't I? As like a storyteller, I like to, act out a few things, right, to make sure it's kind of believable. And it's always awkward when someone kind of comes in and you have to stop and you're in like this weird pose, right? And it's like, oh, shit. I'm not doing anything. But it's part of that process. And I think that's one of the weirdest things. Otherwise, it's, belching a song and then someone's like, what are you doing? I thought you were gone.
I like that. And now out of our jar, the question is, if you had to replace your hands with kitchen utensils, what would you pick and why?
Oh man, it's definitely something the kids would immediately have an answer for. But I think it would have to be, could I do one on one hand, one on another?
Sure.
Knife and tongs, right? Perfect.
Spoken like a true griller.
As I
that's
my
too. I forgot you guys have changed to vegans or vegetarians.
Yeah, more vegetarian. Michelle's, I'll have chicken or something. But like after there was like one St. Patty's Day, we had brisket, and I ate it. And then all of a sudden I was like breaking out in hives. I was like, what's happening to me? And I was like, it must just be like a fluke or something. And then like I had it the next day and I'd break out in hives again. And then it was like any kind of red meat just broke me out in hives. And
that's like, crazy.
So I was like, I don't know what happened. It's probably best for me too, after going to the doctor and they're like, you have high blood pressure. And I was like, I have 3 kids.
Somebody sent me maybe it was you. Oh, no. It was Jeremy sent it to me. It said, it was an image. It said, it was in the doctor's office. And the doctor asked him, do you have I'm going to screw this up. I know I am, but something like, do you drink? And he's like, or do you have kids? And the guy goes, yes. He goes, do you drink? And he goes, I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and being on the show today. And I will talk to you again at a later time. And again, thank you very much. And I love you much.
I love you too.
Once again, thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope you were mildly entertained. If not, who cares? Tango Talks was recorded in front of a totally digital audience and is a division of HM Print Design LLC. Please do us a favor and like, share, follow everywhere you can. Till our next cocktail, this is Angela and Tango saying Skål.